Welcome back. Or shall we say welcome back? Janet, where's your
back?
She's here. Okay. On this episode, now that you've learned the garter stitch, casting on and casting off, on this episode you're going to learn the next stitch in knitting, which is combined with the garter stitch. You can make a multitude of different patterns in knitting. It's these two stitches that create all the beautiful patterns that you see in knitting. So this stitch is called the Purl Stitch. P-U-R-L, Purl. So Janet is already cast on 10?
10.
Okay, so she's going to go ahead and demonstrate the stitch.
And it doesn't matter, 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
So you do it exactly the same way as you do the knit stitch, except you put your needle to the front. Your yarn's at the front, and you wrap the yarn round, the working yarn, you wrap round the needle and pull it through. Take it off.
So it's kind of like backwards knitting.
It is. You put it through. You've still got your cross there on your needle. You wrap your working yarn around, pull it through and take it off. Put it through the front, wrap it around, pull it through, take it off. Wrap the yarn around, pull it through, take it off. Put it through the front of the loop. So you've got your cross still. Wrap the working yarn around, pull it through, take it off. Put it through the front of the knit stitch, working yarn around, pull it through, take it off. Through the front of the stitch, working yarn around, pull it through, take it off. Do that right to the end.
And the working yarn, it's hard to see when you're wrapping it, but it's going between the cross. The cross. See, it's going in there between, just like for garter, but backwards.
So I'll just do one more row here. It actually looks like the garter stitch.
It does.
Really.
It looks exactly. Actually, I think it looks like a tidier garter to me. I don't know why.
So we'll just do one more line here. Through the front, you get your cross, yarn around, pull it through. Through the front, yarn around, pull it through, take it off. So I think we probably get this, but we'll just carry on to the end. And if you didn't get it right away, just replay.
That's the beauty of these videos.
Yeah. There we go.
And
that's 2 rows garter stitch, and I'll just carry on to show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've done about 6 rows here, so I'll just do another couple here, or another one, and then I'll show you what it looks like.
Speedy fingers. Da 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 da. You two will be this fast.
In, around, pull it through, take it off. 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 And then ready to start again.
Just like with garter. And it looks so much like the garter stitch. So now we're going to, or Janet's going to continue on and then cast it off because you know how to cast off already. So here is the cast off purl square. Just like that. And if you were to do one in garter, you would see how similar they are. I think the loops in the garter might be down. I don't know, but they look so the same. So this is the Purl Stitch. Now, in combination with the garter stitch, you can do ribs. What are we going to do next, Janet?
I think we're going to do the knit one, purl one.
Okay, and this is the classic rib stitch that you might see at the bottom of a sweater, at the ridge of the edge of mittens, the rib stitch. It can be in any combination. Okay, so this is one of the many combinations of the garter stitch and purl stitch, which is known as knit one, purl one ribbing. If you were looking at a pattern, that is what it's going to say. It'll have a K1, P1, which means knit one, purl one. So Janet's going to demonstrate that.
So this is the knit one, purl one. The first stitch is the knit. So I'm going to go into the stitch, get my cross at the back, the knit stitch, wind the yarn, working yarn around, pull it through and take it off.
So that was a garter stitch.
Now here is the big change. That was the knit. This is the purl. You wind it to the front in between, put it through the front of the needle and wrap it round, pull it through, take it off. Back to the knit stitch, back to the back, put it through the back, the needle goes through the back, the working yarn around, pull it through, take it off.
Now you'll notice that Janet is saying the knit stitch, and you guys are probably thinking, well, aren't we knitting with all these stitches? That knit stitch is the garter stitch. So she's doing the garter stitch first, the purl stitch next, known as knit one, purl one. Okay, so now she's going to purl one.
Purl, yarn to the front, in between the needles, in between the yarn, needle through the front, wrap it round, pull it through, take it off.
Now the garter.
Yarn to the back, needle through, and we always form our cross. Wrap it round, pull it through, take it off.
Now a purl.
Purl,
Take the yarn back for another garter. Bring it to the front for another purl.
back for the knit, and back for the purl.
Now, most times in knit one, purl one ribbing, if you guys are just going to make your own pattern up and say make yet another headband, make sure if you want to make the rib that you have even stitches on your needle. Like you have in even numbers, like 10 or 12 or 14, whatever.
Well, and I can just show you here. I've turned it around for the next row. This row, this first stitch will be knit on here. Now, if you see this little stitch that looks as though it goes over the top, that's the purl. So we just have to make sure we keep it in line. And as you practice doing this, you'll see how it comes out. So I'll do another line here. So the first stitch is a knit. Just get my working yarn, not my tail. So the cross, pull it through, take it off. The purl to the front, pull it through, wrap it round, pull it through, take it off. To the back for the knit, front for the purl, and it's very much the same stitch except one you're going from the back and one you're going from the front. Practice, that's what it is. Practice, practice. If I'm learning a new stitch, I'll knit little squares like this until I figure out the stitch, because I don't want to get into my pattern. I don't want to get into my project and not be able to do it. So last one there is purl, and then we'll just look at this, how you can see the rib is coming. So there's the purls and there's the knits.
And like she said, the purls have the little bumps on the top of the stitch.
I'll just do a couple more lines and then I'll show you what it looks like a little better.
So you can see how it's making like hills and valleys. It's a hill, there's a valley, there's a hill, there's a valley. So it's getting this rib look. Isn't that neat? That's knit one, purl one, garter, purl, garter, purl. See that? And this is the swatch that Janet just did. You see? I think the beauty of this one is that it can stretch to fit on.
It's elasticated.
Yes, and so like if you're doing it on the cuff of a mitten, you can put your hand through because the hand part's bigger, but this just goes back to size and fits tight around your wrist, your ankle, your head, whatever. I really think that's probably why they invented the stitch. Because if you just, I mean, some hats are made with just garter.
Yeah.
But they don't fit as snugly.
No.
But that's for design.
You always want I always think it doesn't roll up, it doesn't gather up if you have a rib
So this
on.
is like a rib.
Yeah.
Yeah, a nice rib. Okay. So this is the same, play on the same thing, knit 2, purl 2. But for this particular pattern, it has to be in multiples of 4 because the pattern is the knit 2, purl 2.
So same thing, put your needle to the back for the 2 knits. Pull it through, take it off. So we have 2 knit stitches. Yarn to the front, 2 purl stitches. Yarn to the back, 2 knit stitches. Yarn to the front, 2 purl stitches. So that is knit 2, purl 2, rib. And I'll just do a couple more rows to show you how that looks.
Okay, and you can also see how on this one, there's knit 2 and then the purl 2, 2 bumps, no bumps, 2 bumps. Okay? Now you can see how this looks. It's a thicker rib. So it just gives a little bit different of a look and depending on what you're going for. But it gives a thicker look. So this is the pattern here. Knit 2, purl 2. That's the pattern. Okay? And while you're working on it, if it doesn't have the bump, you knit. If it has the 2 bumps, you purl. That's how I keep track. And if I make a mistake, I can always go back and pull it out and see, oh, here I purled where I should have.
Oh, yeah. And if I'm busy doing something else, I often make a mistake.
Yeah, because I'm not paying attention. Yeah. Okay. So now Janet's just going to finish this off into another swatch. Okay, so there's the knit 2, purl 2 rib. And in comparison to the knit 1, purl 1 rib, you can see the difference. See? Very cool. So those are 2, or am I holding this right? Yes. No.
I think they look both from both sides.
Yeah, they do. Okay. So the next one is the stocking stitch. Okay, this is called the Stockinette stitch or the stocking stitch. It's known as both those names. And like you said, Janet, this is the what stitch? The bread and butter?
Bread and butter stitch.
It's the one you see in just about everything, okay?
So what we do in this stitch, we knit a line. So
garter stitch 1 line.
yeah. So knit a line. Needles going to the back, pulling through. And then we turn it. I always like to just tighten it up a little.
Yeah, me too.
Then we turn it around and we go back and we go back and we purl. So it goes into the front of the stitch the whole way along. So this is a purl line.
So it will say in a pattern, do so many inches in, it'll either say knit a row, purl a row, or it'll say stocking stitch or stockinette stitch. They all mean the same thing. It means you knit 1 row, you purl 1 row.
So that's your purl. Well, I'll do 1 more row of knit and you'll see it makes a real smooth, smooth finish.
Nice.
It's a little difficult on here because normally there would be probably a rib, so it gets a bit curly.
Yes.
So I'll do 1 more row of knit and then we'll look. It's a smoother stitch.
And like this would be the one that after you've done your rib edge, then it would say switch to stockinette stitch for so many inches.
So this is our knit line again, or our garter stitch. I tend to call it, I mean it is garter stitch, but I tend to call it my knit line.
Yeah. And also this stitch, the garter stitch side tends to be the right side typically.
I'll just knit a couple more lines and show you a bigger piece.
Yeah, what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see how nice and neat and tidy and flat that is. And that's the knit side. And can you flip it over? That's the purl side, which is usually the wrong side. Any of your store-bought sweaters, if you go look at them, and they're usually knit in stockinette stitch, even if it's machine knit, and that's what it's going to look like. Knit side, purl side. So you knit a row, you purl a row. So now we're going to show you the finished swatch of the stockinette stitch. See how lovely that is? I really love stocking stitches.
It is. It's a real smooth.
It is. It's
and the
just so
finer
nice.
the yarn you use, it just looks
prettier it is,
beautiful.
yeah. So now we're going to show you all three that we've taught you this morning together. So I'm just going to show you the four stitches that we taught you. This is just straight purl. Then it was knit 1, purl 1, in multiples, even stitches, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And this is knit 2, purl 2, in multiples of 4. And this is knit a row, purl a row, and it's called stocking stitch or stockinette stitch. This is called knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. These are 2 ribbing stitches. You can do knit 3, purl 3, whatever your heart desires. Knit 1, purl 3, whatever you want. Just make sure that the multiples of your pattern equal the multiples of stitches on your needle. And then there's the straight purl. So now I think we've got some items created to show you how these things look in an actual item. So this headband is a couple of things that we did in our last video. We made a headband, but the difference, this one is the knit 1, purl 1 headband. So it's done with the knit 1, purl 1 stitch instead of the straight garter stitch. The bow is the garter stitch bow that we made last time. It's a little bit bigger bow because the other one was really little. And it's got tied in the middle with a cute little button. Isn't that adorable?
If we just turn it over, you can see all the ribbing on the back.
Yeah, knit 1, purl 1.
And you can see this has got like, it's stretchy.
In both ways too.
Yeah.
It stretches. I can't hold because I have the camera, but look, it stretches. There you can, if you pull it apart, you can see the ribs. Can you pull it apart again, Jen?
Yeah.
See, you can see the ribbing really well. There, so there's another design for another headband. I know you guys have probably knit 8,000 already. And the next thing we're going to show you is something you can make by yourself. You probably think you couldn't. It's fingerless gloves.
I would call these more wrist warmers.
Yes, because there's no fingers or thumb in them. Okay, so this just looks like a rectangle. We will post the pattern for this at Mocha Yarns under free patterns, and we will also post the pattern for this headband that we just showed you and the one from last week, so they will all be there, okay? So you can notice some of these stitches you just learned. Here's the knitting, knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. Here's that stocking stitch. And here's more
knit 2, purl 2.
Knit 2, purl 2. Same thing as down here. That's it. So I don't know how many stitches are on here, but it'll be on the pattern. But say it's 20, or yeah, 20. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Then after you get to a certain length, which will be in the pattern.
Or your desired length.
Yeah, whatever you want on your wrist. And then this is the stocking stitch, certain length. And then you're going to end it with a few rows of the same thing. Now, what you're going to do after that's all knit, you're going to kiss the right sides together. So this is your wrong side. Easy to tell because it's got that rough side. Right above, you're going to sew up right up to the ribbing.
Or wherever. I'll show you once
what it looks like.
This is why I'll call it a wrist warmer.
Because
now, and you do it. I have really small hands, so you just sew it up. You sew up the seam, which is right here, to where your thumb would go through.
Right.
You leave a space for your thumb, and then you sew up the rest. And these
Let me try it on my hand too.
These are called the wrist warmers. I always keep a pair in the car because even if I've got thin mitts on and I'm cold, I can pop them on top. I can use my phone in this. I can do whatever I need because my fingers are free.
Okay, I'll try it on too because my hands are bigger, and you might have to help me. And then you can see. Because Janet's hands are really small. There you go.
Yeah, that would
see.
Well, that's not bad.
No, that would fit me. It does fit me. See? There you have an idea. Like a more average sized hand, I guess.
I love these.
Oh, I have about 10 pairs of them. They're awesome. So good. And again, that coupled with, can you bring the headband over?
What a nice gift.
What a gift. Look at that. And honestly, you guys will be able to whip these up this weekend and make a couple of pairs of them. So nice. Okay, here's a review of what we've done today. The purl stitch on the top. This was knit 2, purl 2. Knit 1, purl 1 rib. The stocking stitch, knit a row, purl a row. And we've shown you this lovely ribbed headband with the garter bow. And then we showed you rib, stocking, rib, right sides together, sew it up just a little bit above the ribbing, fit for your thumb, and sew the rest up, and you end up with the cutest wrist warmer. So, hope you guys don't have a lot of shopping to do this weekend because you're going to be busy whipping up all these presents for people. And men like these too.
Yeah, really they do.
In a nice tweedy yarn, you know.
Yeah.
So head on over to mochayarns.com if you would like to get the free patterns for the 2 headbands and the wrist warmers. And thank you so much for watching.